Anita. Hey, I'm on the wrong screen. Excuse me. Okay, need a motion to go out of closed meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to go out of closed meeting. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Certification of closed meeting. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to the affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. Whereas Section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Montgomery County, Virginia hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, to which the certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion conveying the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
First thing I want to do is apologize for us being a little bit late. We started at 7:15, but we're a few minutes late, and our closed meeting ran over some. Mr. Creed is not with us tonight because he's ill. Thought I would pass that on to you. Now we will have our invocation.
Mr.
This is-
Brown? I thought Ms. Perkins had a...
Okay.
I have a, first of all, I would like to apologize. Family requirements made it impossible for me to attend last week's meeting, last meeting we had. But I also have heard your request. So, based on our discussion at the closed meeting and other discussions, I'd like to move that we direct the staff to prepare a resolution for our next board agenda addressing the county and the community's concerns with the proposed Mountain Valley gas pipeline.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you very much for that. I think that is part of what is our responsibility to do.
And thank you for putting that out there for us to vote on.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our...
And I do want to say that the rest of the board is very much in favor of this particular motion and this resolution. So thank you very much for being here.
And if I can add also, we've tried to get the word out, but if you haven't heard, we do have a community meeting set up with the representatives from EQT and NextEra for next Wednesday, November the 5th. That will be at 7 o'clock at Blacksburg High School Auditorium. So we look forward to hearing from the representatives that evening. There'll be an opportunity for you to submit questions for the group to answer. And it is our understanding right now that this is not the meeting that they're required to have for the pre-filing FERC hearing. They will have another meeting in December or shortly after. That's considered an open house as far as FERC calls it for the pre-filing, but this is a meeting for the group to come before this board to answer questions from the board and from the citizens. So we look forward to seeing, I hope, all of you next Wednesday evening.
Okay. November 5th meeting was initiated by this board. It wasn't initiated by the EQT or none of those folks, but it was initiated by this board for the board to get some information for our own knowledge and for you all to get some information on what's going on, because I don't think that we've been getting, I guess, some correct information. It's like, well, it might go over here a little bit, it might go over a little bit, but we want to ask some straightforward questions to the representatives. Now, we can move on with our agenda, and next item on our agenda is invocation, which we observe a moment of silence to reflect on the business at hand, and after we reflect on that moment of silence, we'll be led in the pledge by Mr. Meadows, our county administrator.
Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Okay, we do have a delegation this afternoon on our agenda, and it's to Our House. A representative from To Our House will make a presentation on providing winter overnight shelter for homeless men in the New River Valley. Thank you.
I would like to thank the Board of Supervisors for extending me this privilege to share with you about this important service that is provided across the New River Valley, specifically Montgomery County, which tends to hold the bulk of the work, the volunteer labor of To Our House. In November of 2008, a group of concerned citizens got together at the public library in Blacksburg. This was about a month after the death of a homeless man who often walked the streets of Blacksburg, oftentimes there in front of the Gables Shopping Center or riding the BT, and many of the churches in the town of Blacksburg would reach out to this gentleman and help him along the way. He died that October, and later this gathering was kind of an informal memorial gathering to remember him and to start the conversation. What in the world do we have to offer for homeless men in the New River Valley? It's a problem that we've tended to kind of sweep off the front porch, if you will, to the Rescue Mission in Roanoke, which is a phenomenal ministry, but it does not address specific concerns and needs in the New River Valley. So people from social services and other human service professionals gathered together to talk about ways that we might pursue offering this opportunity for homeless men in our area. Well, we're getting ready to start our 5th housing season this Saturday. And I'm very excited I've been able to be a part of this ministry since almost the first day. My name is Morris Fleischer. I'm a resident here in Christiansburg, but I serve as pastor of Newport Mount Olivet United Methodist Church in Giles County. And being part of To Our House is one of the great joys that I have as both a pastor and a person living in this community. It is one ecumenical venture. We have 50 different churches and service organizations that come together to make housing possible for homeless men over the coldest months of the year. We are a thermal shelter. We provide shelter from November 1st to the end of March during these coldest months. So it's a thermal shelter, a hypothermia shelter, if you prefer that nomenclature. But we gather together to invite men come to the intake center here at 101 Roanoke Street. The NRCA office is there about 5 o'clock in the evening. The men gather there, come through the intake process, and then transported to a church somewhere in the New River Valley where they stay for the evening. They're fed a beautiful evening meal, breakfast the next morning. They leave the next morning with a bag lunch in their hands. So they stay at churches for a 7-day period of time, and we rotate through different churches over the course of the housing season. This Saturday, the men will be staying at Our Savior Lutheran Church in Christiansburg, but we have churches, numerous churches in Blacksburg, several in Radford, and one in Giles County who also provide housing. But the bulk of the housing takes place in Blacksburg and Christiansburg over these cold winter months. One of the great joys of the program is that we initially started out just keeping the men from freezing to death, being out on the street, being in the woods. Keep in mind that homelessness looks very different in the New River Valley. Oftentimes we have these stereotypical mental pictures, if you will. If you go to Washington, D.C., you're going to see people sleeping in a storefront or perhaps pushing a shopping cart. Homeless people in our area, in more rural areas, are living either in a cave or in the woods. We found a gentleman living in a culvert, one of these 8-foot cement culverts under Route 100 in Giles County down in the Staffordsville area. Would have to leave his home every time it rained because the water would just flow right through. So there is homelessness here, but we just don't see it as readily as you might in a larger urban area. Typically, we house anywhere from 12 to 15 men each evening with the program. We are a low barrier shelter, so oftentimes we have gentlemen that may be coming straight from incarceration, perhaps from a stay at a mental institution, perhaps marrying, or men that typically find themselves without a job and then without financial resources to have and provide a home for themselves. The average homeless man in the community is a Caucasian between the ages of 50 and 59 years of age. Most have only been on the street for less than 3 months. We're not talking about chronic homelessness here. We're talking about people who are down and out in a moment. The job, their security system has kind of fallen through, and they don't have a safety net at all. So we are here to help them to take care of those basic needs of food, shelter, warmth, care, and compassion and concern while the men are staying with us. So then we can help the men develop an action plan. Each man leaves the shelter with an action plan as we work with NRCA. They are our fiscal agent, and we have great staff members that work through that. Carol Johnson happens to be our coordinator, who also is with New River Family Shelter, and does a fantastic job for us. We also have several AmeriCorps members who provide some of the overnight help, staff on duty overnight as the men are staying at the churches, and we rely on volunteers at the churches to provide food, laundry services, and other hospitality needs. This past housing season, we have had 50 different gentlemen that stayed with us over the course of the 21-week period. 22 of the men were able to leave with housing. When they left the shelter, they had housing. 22 also, not necessarily the same 22, I'm not sure exactly what the overlap was, had found employment while they were seeking shelter with us. We often take referrals from veterans. Veterans often find themselves in a tight situation, and so we help veterans to be able to walk through the process. It can be kind of a daunting thing, the bureaucracy that's involved in finding that kind of housing through the VA administration. So it helps to have an advocate, somebody who can help you here. Let's walk through this together. Let's get the forms. Let's get started. There's a great program that you can take advantage of that will help you get back on your feet again. We have several Wounded Warrior folks that have been referred to through that organization. Oftentimes people will come into a church office and say, I have no place to go. And then the pastor is able to then route that person through to our house. So that's really, in a nutshell, what we are trying to do. You will find in the packets before you the brochure, the updated brochure. You'll have a listing of all the different churches and service organizations that will be assisting us this season. We seem to add about 5 or 6 more every season. It's like the snowball going down the hill. We have pickup volunteers from here, there, and yonder. You will find demographics about homelessness and homeless people in our area, our latest newsletter, as well as a big fundraiser that we have coming up November 8th down at the Little River Bluegrass Farm featuring John Cowan. who is a wonderful bluegrass artist, part of the Newgrass movement, and we're really excited about that. It's our key fundraiser for the year because it does obviously take financial resources to make these kinds of things happen. So it's a great joy to share with you about To Our House, and I would be happy to ask any questions if you want to ask this evening or offline. Feel free to call me. I'll be happy to come out. If you're involved in other community groups yourselves, your churches, I'll be happy to come out and share with your mission committee about what's going on, your outreach group, your service organization, whatever that happens to be. I would be happy to come and share more information about this wonderful project with you.
Questions or comments?
Yes, sir.
Board members? Sir, I'd like to say one thing. The gentleman you talked about and died in 2008, was his name Teddy?
Yes.
I'm very familiar with Teddy because we'd always wondered about Teddy. He
Yes.
lived along the bike path in Blacksburg, and on those really, really cold nights, we didn't know whether Teddy was going to survive or not.
Absolutely.
And
It is his memory that he really spurred us to do something. It's if you notice our initials, To Our House, his name was Teddy Owen Henderson.
Oh,
So
okay.
every time we share To Our House, we don't use him. We don't really advertise that on any of our materials or brochures because we're in the purpose of rehumanizing people that are often dehumanized and marginalized in society. So you won't see pictures of the men in any of our portfolios and any of our resources. We're not here to use them. We're here to let them know that they're people that care. So our name is kind of a shout out to Teddy, who inspired us to do something for the homeless men of our area.
And I really applaud what you all are doing.
Yes.
And I mean, it takes really, really good people to step forward to initiate some action to help others.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, I'm just curious about your capacity. Have you ever encountered in the last couple of years where you've had to turn people away? Or have you been able to accommodate everyone who's seeking shelter?
We've been fortunate to be able to accommodate folks. Now, last winter, because it seemed like it went on and on forever last year, we had the never-ending winter. So we actually had capacity and then some, but we have enough cots and quilts and other resources we're able to kind of expand as needed. So we've never turned anybody from away that has sought shelter with us, and that's a real blessing that we've been able to have. But we have enough gear to be able to make it work. We have beautiful quilts. If you ever come to one of our sites, one of the churches where the men are staying, you're going to see these beautiful handmade quilts by the Blacksburg Quilters Group. We try to make the place as comfortable and homey as possible. We refer to the gentlemen as our guests. When we sit down for the evening meal, the volunteers sit down with the men. We hear their stories. We are part of their family in that moment.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
It's
you.
really good.
The next item on our agenda is public addresses. We ask that you come to the podium when your name is called. You have 5 minutes to address the board, and we ask that you direct all comments to the board. And the first name that I will call is Angela Stanton. Since the list is not so long, I'll just wait till she finishes. I'll call the next person.
Thank you. My name is Angela Stanton, and I live at 2595 Spalding Road in Christiansburg. I'll be short tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for getting EQT to finally come to town. We wish they had come to town before they pre-filed. We really wanted them to answer your questions and our questions
That's right.
before they began the process of filing with FERC. That's not your fault, but certainly we're disappointed that they didn't want to come and see us prior to that, since they did visit some of our sister counties already. And I do want to say thank you for the resolutions that you discussed prior to the beginning of the meeting tonight. I understand the issue about legal standing. I realize that legally there might be some things that you're able to do as a local governing body with a federal project. But I can tell you, as a citizen of this county, you all are also fellow citizens. We really appreciate the support You all live in this county as we do, and we all want to have a good place to live. We do invite you. We have a meeting tomorrow night that is providing some legal expertise related to this pipeline issue. It's being held at Blacksburg Unitarian Church on Gladewood Road. Begins at 7 o'clock, and all of you are welcome to attend. Thank you.
We'd like to attend, but we have a joint meeting with the school board tomorrow night starting at 6:30. So we won't get to make that meeting. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
We'll share our notes with you.
Good.
Please do.
That's great.
Elizabeth McCommon, 1400 Crestview Drive in Blacksburg. And I have not shared with you before that my house is not threatened. My home is threatened. Your home is threatened. My home is as far as I can see and as far as I can reach, and it includes from the West Virginia line all the way to the parkway beyond Floyd. And I know you love this place, or you wouldn't be sitting in these seats. And I thank you so much for your service to this community. I want to remind you again that I am terrified of the dangers that this pipeline can bring to our community. I'll remind you again, and all of our sources of information are available to you. They're verifiable and they're factual, and they are respectable sources. 5,000 plus explosions in gas pipelines over the last 10 years. And we've talked about what they cost. You know, these are the ones that cost $50,000 or more in destruction. And hopefully you will ask to see their insurance policy to make sure that they can take care of us in the event of something like that. Let's just say no, though. I understand that you have no legal grounds. My understanding has been for months from a lawyer friend who works for the SCC. You have no legal grounds to stop this pipeline. However, you can say no, and you can swell the hearts of the people in this community and bring you back to your seat next year and the year after. We're most anxious to feel as though our concerns are shared by you. And tonight, for the first time, I feel as though perhaps you do. Again, it's not my house, but my home and your home. And thank you so much for doing whatever you can. And if you read nothing else, and we've shared a lot of our information with you, if you read nothing else, then Dan Casey's column in Sunday Roanoke Times, you know all
Will Stanton.
Good evening. I'm Will Stanton. I live at 2595 Spalding Road in Christiansburg. And I have something for the board I'm going to speak from. If I can approach and
Yeah, he can pass it now.
I know some of you like documentation, some of you like.
Is this what you emailed? Turn off.
I have the first piece I've given you. That's what I was going to talk about tonight, and I will. But given the events of today and finding that EQT has submitted something to FERC, I have some passionate things I might want to add to this when I finish with the first part. We all need to ask EQT some questions and get some answers. For 7 weeks now, when we first got our letter, they wanted to come across our property and do a survey. And 7 weeks ago, we told them, no, thank you. You're not welcome on our property. We have been calling EQT. We have been emailing EQT. And to this day, they have never responded. And I don't think they're ever going to respond to me or to most of the citizens that are out here. Hopefully they'll respond to you next week when we meet with them, collectively, all of us. And I think you're going to have a lot of folks that are going to be there to talk with them. I hope they'll be open and honest. I hope this will not be an open house. We have looked at open houses that Williams and others have had when they have done their pre-filing. They're 2 hours in length. A lot of people come there and they give standard stock answers to any question that's been asked. We have one posted on our site, an hour and 48 minutes. It's not very exciting to watch because you hear the same things coming out of their mouths over and over again. Hopefully you guys have gotten this where they will actually respond to real questions. And one question I have, persistently I've been asking, is what is their intent for this gas? Was it ever intended for the Commonwealth of Virginia? And I think it's pretty obvious that it was not, it is not, and it will not be. There's this is a 42-inch pipeline. It's called a trunk line. It's designed to go from where the gas is being generated through fracking in West Virginia to go to another interstate transport, and that's Transco at 165 in Pennsylvania County. That's owned by Williams. Once it goes to Transco, that gas will go north and go south. Some of it will go to Dominion, where they're changing over from coal to natural gas-fired generation, and some will go down to North Carolina. Dominion has been open about that when asked about that. They have said pretty bluntly, no, you can't tap into this, you can't get your drill out, you can't hook your house up to it. This is a transportation line. But I think we ought to ask them directly and have them come on record to say, is this or is this not available to the Commonwealth of Virginia? Particularly, there's this always Mohawk Industries tapped into a pipeline, so they got gas in their Carroll County, helped connect some businesses there, and they did. They tapped into the East Tennessee pipeline. They were negotiating with Roanoke Gas, which is the pipeline coming up from East Tennessee, which is owned by Spectrum. They're all the same company, and they got gas from that. That's an 8-inch pipeline. The pipeline coming through here is 42 inches. It's got 27 times the volume of gas. It's not a simple process, I can't imagine, to tap into something that large with that much pressure. But I'd like for you and us, whoever gets to ask the question, to ask them specifically about that. Can we or can we not? And do you have any firm commitments from anyone yet? Or is Transco the only place that you have? The next issue that I've been wrestling with for 7 weeks now is the compressor stations. These compressor stations will take from 5 to 25 acres of land. They buy the land. You don't get an easement for it, they buy it. But if you don't want to sell it, well, you will sell it. At some point, they have eminent domain for that as well. If you've gone out and watched anything from other compressor stations, you can hear just how loud they are. I would like to know some things. How many compressor stations will be in Virginia? They say there'll be 3 or 4 along the pipeline. All right, how many will be in the Commonwealth of Virginia? How many will be in Montgomery County? Where will they be? How large will they be? What size engines will they have? Will they be natural gas burning, or will they be electric? Electricity is the one for most environmentally correct things to do, but I don't know that, and they haven't responded to me about that either. The next thing I have an issue with is that whatever we do here in Montgomery County as citizens and you as Board of Supervisors will be what's expected the next time a pipeline comes through. Already Williams, the owner of Transco, has an open season for their next pipeline, Western Marcellus. It's out there, open season's going on. They plan to come about it. I put on here the route it's going. Oops, sorry about that. It looks like it will bypass Montgomery County, but it's going to go through Roanoke County. And the way these things shift, it could in fact come back right through us. So whatever you do now, whatever we do now, sets a precedence. We need to stand tall, stand together, stand united, and tell them no pipeline through here, no pipeline ever. Is that my buzzer to say I'm done?
Yes.
Oh. Well, passion. One quick statement. Please stand with us. You're part of the citizens here. We all need to stand together. We expect you to be with us as we are with you. Thank you very much.
Tom Hoffman.
Good evening. My name is Tom Hoffman. I live at 135 Davis Lane in Harrisburg. And I almost didn't come tonight because it's 30 miles from to Christiansburg from where I live. And I figured that my duties as a citizen overrode that, so I decided to come anyway. And last month I mentioned the pipeline at an AARP meeting that we had out in Giles County at the Senior Center. And the reaction I got was, they're going to do what they want anyway. It's a waste of time to fight fight it, to fight them. And, you know, that kind of attitude makes my blood boil. It really does. Now, just try to imagine if the colonists back in 1776 had, they just would have said, the king's going to get his tax on tea anyway. After all, he's a king. He can do whatever he wants. And if that had happened, we'd be having the Union Jack up on top of the building. We'd still be under British rule. So, and I want to say something about jobs too. Any job, some people think that if it generates jobs, it's okay no matter what it is. Well, that's not true. And in any event, any jobs generated by this pipeline are going to be highly trained specialists like welders. You can't just be a welder. You have to be a certain kind of welder. And what they do is they import these people from other parts of the country, and I don't think they even put them in hotels here to help that business out. I think they put them in trailers. And, you know, there aren't going to be any jobs for the citizens of Montgomery County or anywhere else in the New River Valley that's generated by this pipeline. And I just want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen of the board and the citizens of this county and the whole county are going to fight this pipeline to the death. We will avail ourselves of any lawful and legal remedies to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Phyllis Albright.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brown. I have a few handouts here. The first one I want to talk about. The second one you probably read. Oh, God bless you. The second one you probably read. Mr. Brown, friends of the board, Phyllis Albritton, 1003 Highland Circle. The first one you probably read, Dan Casey's. It's the second one on there, but Dan Casey had a great article. We all agree. But he didn't talk about the workers as the gentleman previously did. And I was in upstate New York 2 summers ago, and a friend of mine up there has been fighting this forever. And sure enough, the workers were staying in cottages at the little hotel on the lake where my brother and I were staying. And so we got to talk to the workers, you know, and it wasn't the local people that were hired. It was out-of-towners staying at these cute little cottages. An old-timey resort. Try to go sometime, Scott's Family Resort. But my concern, of course, along with so many other people, is EQT. I wear this stole every day, try to wear one, because it's a sign of service. You know, the ministers, the priests, the imams, the rabbis wear a stole. And it is, as I've understood historically, the sign of service. And I really appreciate your service. I really do, as you know. Having served on the school board, bless you. We're all here today as servants for Mother Earth. And I don't believe EQT cares a darn about Mother Earth. I think that it is very, very oriented to its money. In the first paragraph, it says, talking about gas, though lauded as an environmentally friendly alternative to coal, fracking for gas has been linked to depleting drinking water resources of local communities, including the wells of the people living around the drill sites. And further down, and according to data released to EPA, Halliburton, a major supplier of fracking fluid, admitted using 807,000 gallons of diesel-based chemicals in its fluids in violation of an agreement drillers had with the EPA. I don't believe these corporations honor anyone, anything, any ruling, and that's in print. The third one down, the majority of EQT's political donations have gone to pro-fracking Republicans. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. I have friends on both sides. But they use their money. They use their money. And money does tend to speak too often and too loudly and too powerfully in our nation today. Down further, in Virginia, another state where EQT owns a large amount of acres specifically for coal mining, the state donor web cites all their PAC money and what the employees dated, etc., and you can read that. Money, money talks again. And you know I'm a financial advisor. I'm not opposed to money. But the way it's used is too often very, very unacceptable. On the page 2, health and safety violations, you can read that. They have violated health and safety regulations. Lawsuits against this company. And I won't go on. We all can read for ourselves. But I really believe it's important for us as a community, as servants to Mother Earth, to take a position against this company coming in and ruining our environment. Thank you for your concern. And I'm sorry to hear about yours.
Tina Badger.
Good evening and thank you. I'm Tina Badger, 4181 Bluebird Drive, Elliston, Virginia. And again, I am not in the direct pathway of this pipeline. I've not received any notification from the surveyors saying that my property is. I do believe it will be about 2 miles away from my house. And I want to say thank you for at least adopting a resolution to address the concerns of us citizens about this pipeline. We do feel like we are up against a huge Goliath here. As Phyllis said, money talks.
That's right.
And as she mentioned, as I've researched this corporation, EQT, I found a number of the lawsuits that they have filed, including in Wise and Dickinson County, $20 million. They have filed a lawsuit against Wise and Dickinson County over a disagreement on the severance taxes that they say they were unfairly charged in those 2 counties and they want to pay back. If they win this lawsuit, those 2 counties in Southwest Virginia will be ruined. That's a lot of money for those poor counties in Southwest Virginia. I found this article about the gas drilling, and while the pipeline doesn't directly involve drilling for gas here, who's to say what's next? If we let this come through, if we let them steamroll this through, what's next here? But here's what one person said about it. It's a two-edged sword. Mike Yates, Commissioner of Revenue in Dickinson County, the 2nd largest gas-producing locality in Southwest Virginia. The gas industry will tell you that it's probably the salvation of a region, but if you talk to the people, they'll probably tell you they wish they had never heard of or seen the gas companies. So a lot of people are feeling like they really don't have rights. We feel like we don't really have any legal standing with this corporation, but I hope that y'all will stand with us. And this isn't a Montgomery County issue. This isn't a Giles County issue. This isn't a Roanoke County issue or Floyd or Franklin. It is a regional, it is a state issue. It's an earth issue, and we all need to stand together with each other and stand against this kind of what I like to call corporate thuggery, because that's all it is corporate thuggery. I took a drive up into Giles County after I went to the Giles County Board of Supervisors meeting the other week, and I had kind of mapped out the very lousy map that EQT had put out about where the pipeline might be going, and I looked at some of the places where it's going to cross over. Sinking Creek Historical Covered Bridge, right under the power line easement. So you know that that pipeline is going to probably be somewhere near Sinking Creek and the historic bridge. There's a ball field over there where the kids get together and play ball, is possibly right in the pathway. Right near the Mountain Lake Conservatory, right down below it, I looked at the overlook at the Mountain Lake Conservatory, and you can see where the power line easement goes. That entire area, you'll be able to see where that pipeline goes. We live in beautiful country. Let's find other ways to bring in revenue, ecotourism, things like that, rather than let these corporations come in here and tell us that this is going to be good for us when we know very well it's not going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Helm.
I had a presentation on my computer, and I wasn't aware that I had to present that ahead of time before the forum. So I can turn the screen around and do this for you.
Okay.
If you'd like. My name is Steve Helm. I live at 1602 Smithfield Drive in Preston Forest, in Blacksburg. I want to first thank you, especially Annette and all the rest of you, for passing this resolution. and supporting the community. It's really important. Democracy depends on you to represent us. I wanted to show you a nice map from Google Maps of Preston Forest. And as you see, if you go to Google Earth or Google Maps, you can see that transmission line that already goes through there. I live approximately a quarter mile from that transmission line. You're already aware that they're talking about a 36 to 42 inch diameter line with approximately 75 feet of permanent easement and 125 feet of total easement. All my neighbors that are along that line are going to have their properties and homes ruined by this, and I'm sure there are plenty of them here that can speak to that. I could go on and on about that, but I won't. What I wanted to talk to you about was something the industry calls high consequence area, HCA. And what that is a blast zone. When there's an accident with methane, which natural gas is methane, they have a formula. And I have a nice slide formula. It's basic high school math, okay? You take the diameter of the pipe in inches and square it times the pressure of the pipeline. Take the square root of that and multiply by 0.685. That gives you the radius of the blast area. They have a nice chart out there on the web in the industry sites that show how the larger the pipe and more pressure, the greater the radius of the blast area. Makes total sense, right? I'll create a PDF of this and email it to you. So you can see
And
this.
Mr. Helm, if you want to email that to us, we'll get it distributed.
We'll be sure to, yeah, right.
Of course, this 42-inch line at 1480 PSI is at the top of this chart. The blast radius is the largest that the industry has for that size pipe. So taking the Google map and the measurement tools available on Google Earth, I created a graphic of the blast area. If there was an incident in Preston Forest, you have 1,107 feet of blast area. And of course, Preston Forest is a bucolic forest, right? That's why we live there, because it's beautiful. We work very hard to not start forest fires. When we do 4th of July, we're on the lawn, we're careful with hoses. We do marshmallow roast, we're careful. We're cognizant of the burn bans you guys put out, because we don't want to burn down our neighborhood. If a blast happens in this neighborhood, the whole place is going up. It's going to be not pretty at all. Now, I can't remember who it was, talked about the number of pipeline incidents in the last 10 years. There are several that are very recent and very telling. In December of 2012, a 20-inch pipeline exploded in Sissonville, West Virginia, along I-77. It took a 20-foot long segment of pipe and threw it more than 40 feet. It charred 800 feet of I-77 and destroyed 3 homes and melted the siding on houses hundreds of feet from the rupture site. This is an image of that. It's out there on the web. That was a 20-inch pipeline. They're talking about a 42-inch pipeline here. In September 2010, in San Bruno, California, there was a 30-inch natural gas pipeline that exploded in the Crestmore neighborhood. The death toll there was 8 people. The explosion leveled 35 houses and damaged many more. And later on, they determined that 3 other houses were uninhabitable, so they had to raise those as well. So a total of 38 houses were destroyed in California with a 30-inch pipeline. This is a bigger pipeline than that. There's San Bruno, California. There's data out there about recommended evacuation distances for natural gas line pipeline leaks and ruptures. That is 3,583 feet. Pretty much a mile across is the evacuation area. Now, if you've been in Preston Forest, you know we have lots of cul-de-sacs and roads. There's only a few ways out of there. We have a national forest on the backside of the mountain. So again, Preston Forest is heavily wooded. Any fire would spread. Let me quickly go Risk analysis needs to be more than just the cost of doing business. It needs to be about our families. There's no check they can write. I don't really give a damn about their insurance. If my daughter gets killed, that's it. There's no money for that. As was said today by Will, EQT filed their pre-filing today. There's nowhere in the document about geology, seismology, anything like that. And do your homework if you already haven't done it yet. Giles County quake of 1897, 5.8, same size as Louisa quake. They need to take seismology into account as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Hahn.
That was me. I'm sorry.
Hi again, folks. My name's Elizabeth Hahn. I live at 2068 Lester's Gate Road in the county. I have spoken to you before about the dangers of fracking and pipelines, so I'll be brief tonight. I'm sure you'll be hearing more about that, and you've already heard a lot about that. What I'd like to say is that I would like to urge you to pass a resolution not only opposing the pipeline itself, but opposing fracking in general. As you know, the companies pre-filed today with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I was studying the documents on the website, and it struck me that they mentioned tapping into not only gas from the Marcellus shale deposits, but also from the Utica shale deposits. And it might interest you to know that we have Utica shale gas right here in our vicinity. This will not stop with the pipeline. Once the pipeline goes through, the next step will be fracking itself. And you've heard about the dangers of the pipeline, you've heard about the dangers of fracking, and altogether, this is a very, very dangerous proposition. So I urge you to include in your resolution an opposition to the pipeline and to fracking itself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brad Klein.
Hi, my name is Brad Klein. I live at 4656 Susanna Drive in Preston Forest. And my beautiful neighborhood, my beautiful county, my beautiful Virginia are threatened by this pipeline. And I've came before you tonight to ask for your support again in opposing that this pipeline come through our area. We the people of Montgomery County want your support in that opposition. And the pipeline certainly raises many concerns for the citizens of Montgomery County with respect to safety, with respect to health, with respect to decreased property values, decreased revenues for the county, negative impacts upon aesthetics, negative impacts upon tourism, negative impacts upon traffic patterns. The benefits of this pipeline are difficult to envision, given the fact that probably most of this gas will just pass through this area and ultimately be marketed off to European markets, and marketing that off to European markets will therefore drive the price of energy up back in the United States. Somebody has also mentioned before about the fact that the people that are going to be employed to construct this pipeline are already professionals that will simply be imported into this region, and then they will leave when the pipeline is completed. The health concerns, I think, with respect to the construction of this pipeline are very serious. I think you saw some pictures last time. Construction of the pipeline will require a very wide swath of land to produce and dig in that wide swath of land. To bury the pipeline will require probably blasting and excavation, which will damage the terrain and potentially damage wells. And given the karst nature of the terrain around here, that could potentially open up a horizontal network for the distribution of pollution among wells. Again, that area will have to be cleared of foliage and trees, and the way that that region will most likely be cleared will involve the distribution of pesticides, including herbicides and insecticides. I study this for a living. I study the effect of pesticides on the nervous system. These pesticides, when applied, can drift through the air, they can leach through the ground, and pesticide exposure is a primary cause associated with the development of Parkinson's disease. As you've heard, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, explosions are not uncommon with these pipelines, and they have resulted in death and injury of many individuals. And again, an explosion of a pipeline this size being located near electrical power lines would be an absolute disaster. Again, there's, as the previous gentleman mentioned, there's seismic activity in our area. Again, thinking back to the quake of a few years ago that we all felt, that was 5.8 at its origin. Movement to the ground such as that could potentially damage the pipeline, cause leaching of pipeline material into the groundwater and into the soil. Again, compressors would have to be built along the line, contributing to noise pollution. These health concerns and safety concerns are scary in their own right, but again, think about the fact that many of the houses in this pathway have many small children in them. Devaluation of property will be a disaster for the families that it affects. That devaluation of property will result in a lowering of tax revenues for the county. The negative aesthetic impact on our area will impact tourism, again, driving down local revenues, and will interfere with traffic as well. So the potential risks appear many, the benefits appear few, and we ask for your support in opposing this pipeline and standing up for the citizens of Montgomery County. Thank you.
Thank you. Stockton Maxwell.
Good evening, I'm Stockton Maxwell. I live at 4951 Preston Forest Drive, and I have got a map here for you today. I got two maps. There we go. So the first map I want to show you is a map that I showed last time to the board. And Steve, my neighbor, was just presenting this to you. This represents the gas cloud leak, and he showed from his data that it would be around 1,100 feet of a blast zone. What I'm showing you here is the gas cloud can actually get fairly large. The scale bar there is around 2,000 feet, and that gas cloud moving up with the wind around 10 miles per hour will push out about 2,000 feet. That is what's going to be volatile and explode. And so when we're talking about an explosion of 1,100 feet out from that, we're talking about leveling all of those houses on Perriman Drive, probably extending over to Smithfield, and really leveling a large section of that neighborhood. Now, the second map I want to show you, and I'll email this to you folks, and we'll have it posted up on the web. But the second map I want to show you is about property values. So I worked this one up this afternoon. I selected all the properties within 75 feet of the pipeline coming through the northern part of Montgomery County there. And what you can see is that there are around $32 million worth of property within just 75 feet of the pipeline. This is a pretty conservative analysis. I didn't even go one lot back or anything like that. The annual tax revenue at 0.89% is $290,000 and change. And if I were to decrease those property values and looking at the property lost value line there by 25%, and I'm pretty sure that's conservative too for folks that will be living on that pipeline, we'll lose around $8 million in property value, and that'll be pretty swift. It won't happen over time. And this will result in over $72,000 lost on an annual basis to the county. Now, the short-term gain that we may be promised by a company will not really do the trick. $72,000 lost a year to this county is a really big deal. So the first map that I showed you with an explosion, well, emergency response is our duty as the county, right? Well, if we keep on losing $72,000 a year, how are we going to pay for emergency services when a pipeline does explode? How are we going to get to these locations? And so property value losses are going to be a big driver of how we do business in this county. So I urge you to stand up with us, and I appreciate the resolutions. Let's get the word out also to all of our legislators above us, and if we can show the support as a county, I think we can fight this, and I think I can provide you data to make the argument. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pat Tracy.
I'm Patricia Tracy. I live at 1110 South Jefferson Forest Lane in Blacksburg. Thank you for the opportunity to speak again about the real nightmare we're facing this Halloween week. Once again, others will ask you to think about the geologic and environmental hazards from the pipeline. I still worry about economics, as I assume you do. Your constituents are going to demand that you take a position on the pipeline. And who among your voters is for the pipeline? You are not legally empowered to stop it, you say, but it is your duty to protect the welfare and the economic standing of the whole county. You fought hard, expensively, but ultimately in vain, to keep the Highway Railroad Exchange terminus out of Elliston, because it would hurt some landowners, though that at least promised to bring a few permanent jobs. What can we say about the benefits of the gas pipeline to Montgomery County? Migrant professional contractors will build it. They'll buy some meals, they might stay in our hotels as they pass through the areas. The fuel for their vehicles and their power equipment might be bought locally. The energy companies will presumably pay some small continuing tax to the county. Is this a reasonable exchange for the loss of hundreds of thousands of dollars in annual tax revenue from homes in Preston Forest alone, let alone other neighborhoods, if the pipeline runs through there? And the whole neighborhood is stigmatized on the real estate market. I'm a retired realtor. I know about stigmas on neighborhoods. What about other residential areas? How much would you pay for a house near a gas pipeline that will inevitably leak and maybe explode? And that's not the limit of the economic damage. The general pipeline route that is sketched in the publicized map goes through a lot of Montgomery that's thinly settled. Possibilities for future residential development in those areas will be killed, and the value of farmland lowered by the presence of the gas pipeline. It won't do any good for the quality of outdoor recreation in this area, and that is a big draw for the entrepreneurial, high-tech folks that we're trying to lure here, because they bring money and they bring real jobs to this area. And after it's built, what if it's not needed? What happens when our politicians at the state and national level understand how environmentally damaging fracking is? What if there's no gas flowing and we have a huge pipeline equivalent of ghost malls, like the ironically named Marketplace in Christiansburg? And what happens when the company goes out of business? If the company fails, it will go out of business. If it's successful, it will be bought out by somebody else. And in the legal transition, the new owners will be very careful not to take responsibility for what EQT did. So whose insurance policy would we go after if there's a problem? It won't be there. It's your responsibility. It's the county's responsibility. This pipeline is a boondoggle for the company that would build it. It's too expensive, a nightmare for the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Vick.
Hi, my name is Linda Vick, and I live at 4216 Pearman Road, which is in Preston Forest. Now that EQT has pre-filed the paperwork for the proposed pipeline in our county, you guys have the most important job ever faced by any board of supervisors in Montgomery County. This is a really serious issue. Several of you have been listed on the pre-filing paperwork as being stakeholders in the FERC paperwork. Some of you have met with EQT people, you've talked to them. We want you to know that we're the stakeholders. Yay. All of us out here, we're the stakeholders. We appreciate your willingness to think about things since the last meeting. I have to say I left a little bit bummed out last time we came here when you said you didn't have anything you could do, but now that they've pre-filed the paperwork, you guys could give that input for that FERC. You could resist things. I have nothing to do with the Preserve the NRV website, but I strongly, strongly recommend it. Some people out here have put in a lot of work gathering information on potential dangers, hazards to the environment, operational. Please look it over. It's very educational. It's just all in one place. You won't hear all these random things that we're all talking in different ways, but you can look up the references online. In fact, my daughter and her boyfriend looked up gas pipeline accidents in 2014. There were so many there that were significant that they did not fit on a Wikipedia website. You had to go to the other website because there were numerous, and this is just 2014 alone. So we're not talking about 10 or 15 years worth of accidents. We're talking about just 2014. There were tons of them. So we understand that if FERC grants eminent domain, there's nothing we can do, the battle is over, but we plead with you guys now to educate yourself using that website. Maybe even link on the county Board of Supervisors website, you have a link to the EQT documents. Some of our neighbors have called that the commercial for EQT. We'd love for you guys to link the Preserve the NRV website because there's a lot of information that gives the counterpoints to the argument. While you're filing the FERC, or you filling the FERC documentation out, one of the things that really caught me was one of the articles that was there about where's the gas going. Apparently the cost of natural gas has dropped so much because there's so much of it in the United States that it doesn't make sense to sell it here. They can make so much more money by shipping it overseas. Many people believe that that's really where it's ultimately going. It's not for Virginia. They might say, oh, Dominion's getting some of it, so that they can say that there's some right for eminent domain, but apparently we don't need this capacity. So eminent domain could be refused just based on the fact that there's no need for that capacity. They just don't need it. We also love for you to look over the website and get them to address all the environmental and safety concerns that we have. And if EQT wins, we'd like to think about the following of how it's going to impact us. If they do decide they're going to put this pipeline in and we lose, we'd love for the county to pay for well water testing before and after the pipeline's built for all the neighborhoods in Preston Forest. We have wells. They're expensive. Sometimes $10,000 to drill a well, and each EQT is not going to take responsibility for contaminating our water. We'll have to drill another one and just find that the water supply is contaminated. So if that does happen, we'd love the testing before and after, and we'd love you guys to be able to say, okay, we'll give you town water if they were in your watershed. We would like you to consider granting appeals for the tax assessments in our neighborhoods. We've been told already by real estate people that our houses are unmarketable right now, even with just the rumor of a pipeline coming through. I would gladly take any money I saved on a tax assessment and put it towards a legal defense fund to support the FERC documents and pre-filing. I would give that tax money right out. Or the tax assessment goes right to a lawyer. We would like you to consider purchasing insurance to cover any kind of damage that's done when EQT goes out of business or they claim it's not their responsibility anymore. And that would be damage to our homes or properties or wells. There's some scary information on methane poisoning. Apparently all these things will eventually leak. It's just a matter of when. It's not will it leak, it's when it will leak. They were saying that some of these pipelines leaked 50 to 70% of the gas that's sent through it, which is why there was such a huge tax discrepancy between what went in the pipeline and what came out the end. $14 million is a lot of tax. That means there's a heck of a lot of gas that got lost. According to some of the documents on that website, you can look it up, methane is worse than most greenhouse gases. It's terrible. If you're dumping half the stuff into the environment, maybe you should leave it in the ground where it started. In addition to that, if EQT does put this pipeline in, we would like you guys, in addition to them, since they're apparently not terribly trustworthy, to provide regular monitoring for leaks. Apparently they're not going to put any kind of that tracer gas that you can smell the leaks. We'd love for an outside company to pay for coming in and testing that to ensure our safety. And just a little bit about me. My husband and I have lived in Montgomery County for 33 years. We've lived in Preston Forest for 18 years. Many of you recognize me as a person who walks 3 dogs at all hours of the day and evening. My husband and I walk through the neighborhood and we say, wow, we're so lucky to live here. Who needs to go camping? Who needs to go to a national forest when we live in one? We live within a quarter of a mile of the existing power line, which is where the easement is. So we're in the blast zone. We hope our neighbors are right in their models that the wind is blowing in the opposite direction of our land when it does blow. Yeah. We walked past the power lines. Last year, AEP did their herbicide. They put so much herbicide on there that they killed pine trees, rhododendron. That stuff's sinking into our well water. If we have another huge swath right next to it, they're right above my well. I don't want that stuff getting into my well and poisoning my children. I don't want to live in fear of my safety and health. Anyway, please support that, preserve the NRV website, lots of information, and thanks for counting on you guys. We appreciate you listening to us.
There may be members in the audience that didn't get an opportunity to sign the list who wish to speak at this time. If there are, would they please come forward and state their name and address, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Carl Rakes. I live at 3300 Indian Meadow Road in Blacksburg. I'm not in the path of the pipeline. I'm actually a couple of miles from it, but I've done a little bit of research, and I'd like to share that with you as you prepare for the meeting that you've set up. And by the way, thank you very much for setting up this meeting. It means a lot to everybody here, especially, I'm sure, those folks that are in the midst of the pipeline. The three main points I'd like to make about the pipeline. One, it's unnecessary. These pipeline operators are very much like toll road operators. They make money if they can build a road and run traffic on it. They have no interest in seeing a 5-lane highway. They'd rather see a bunch of single-lane highways and each have their own highway. So we've got the Atlantic Coast Pipeline being built by Dominion in joint venture with 4 others that EQT is not going to join. Why? It's more profitable to them if they go ahead and build their own pipeline. Now, there's going to be 2 sets of easements going through Virginia, the Atlantic Coast as well as the Mountain Valley, and yet they start at the same place and end 70 miles apart. That's just pure toll road economics. That's it. The other thing is the Mountain Valley toll road is going through the karst terrain of West Virginia as well as the karst terrain that we have here. Karst terrain is very, very serious. A leak can spread 10 miles within 1 week. Now, folks say natural gas goes up, it doesn't go down. Well, that's if we're pumping natural gas through. But when a pipeline goes through, they get an easement that does not restrict them as to the number and types of pipelines. What they can also pump through are natural gas liquids. In fact, Kentucky has been fighting very hard against a natural gas liquid pipeline. They will eventually come around because it's their toll road. They will have customers. They will want to pump natural gas liquids through their easements, which means coming through with yet another pipeline, which, hooray, means more jobs. But they will come through and pump natural gas liquids through that easement. It's just a matter of economics and a matter of time. We will get hit with our karst terrain at some point as it leaks through. What could it cost? Who knows? You know, Jared Diamond wrote a book called Collapse. He talks about how people who have failed to take care of their environments have paid the price. In Montana, where copper mining was very big, that state to date has already spent $2 billion, in excess of $2 billion, cleaning up and taking care of the cyanide issues, which quite honestly, all they've really done is condemn areas to farming and to drinking water because it's not suitable for human nor animal. The measures can be catastrophic if we let folks through. Now, we could say we've already got one pipeline, let's let another one through. It doesn't work that way. Each toll road is another set of risks that are going to come here. Finally, they are making a mockery of what we as citizens put in place when we put in place a constitutional amendment to disallow eminent domain for profit, even for economic development. Even if the Board of Supervisors said, hey, it's great for jobs, it's not legal in Virginia to have eminent domain for the creation of jobs, for the creation of tax revenue, for the creation of economic development. It's not legal. We can fight it. So I'd like the Board of Supervisors to think about its capabilities and its roles in the 21st century. We have the tools since time immemorial as governing bodies to stop bandits with guns. Can you stop a bandit with a pen? So rethink the tools that you have, rethink the charter that you have. How do you stop these toll road bandits? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Todd Whitehurst. I live in Newport, Virginia, 827 Bluegrass Trail. The pipeline, if it comes through as they say it will, be within sight of my house. Probably won't come on my property, so I'm just going to lose everything that I put into my property. I doubt they'll pay me for anything like that. I'm very scared. I feel powerless. I feel like there's nothing I can do to prevent this. But I don't want to lie down. I want to stand up and say, no, this is not the right thing to do. Fracking, which scares me more than the pipeline, is going to ruin the state that I grew up in. My grandmother used to be so proud. Excuse me. She cried like a girl too. She used to be so proud calling herself Virginia. She used to travel a lot, and she traveled all over the world 2 times. Died before she made it the 3rd time around. She used to call the water in Virginia American champagne, and the fracking will destroy it. I've got really great water. I wish I could give you some of my water. It is fabulous, and they're going to destroy it. And I would appreciate everything that you can do to stop it. There's a lot of other people standing in the audience today, that are sitting in the audience today, that are scared and angry. And I invite all of you sitting out there to stand up if you oppose this, and if you are just willing to stand up and not take this. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Angelica Huber-Kuchera. I live on 1450 Smithfield Drive, right next to the power line. We moved up there with our 4 little children in August to give them a nice, beautiful home to live in nature, because they all love nature like we do. And now they tell us they will build a power line there. What we understand from the amount of easement they need, they will take down our house, the house that we just bought. All the money we had is in this house. It will not give us back what we now have. But even if they don't have to make the easement that wide and they will stop right in front of our garage door, what will it do to my kids? They have to watch them kill our forest. My kids are out there after every rain, rescuing every little earthworm. My son, when we lived at the other house, there was a construction site where they had to burn down trees to make a street wider. He had nightmares. He was screaming. He had to watch how they killed a big tree and then just threw it to the side and burned it. He had nightmares for a month. Now they want to kill our forest right in front of our door. Who will pay for that they destroy the souls of my children and my soul? They will just make them die before it even explodes or leaks. Because they just destroy what we wanted to live in. And they will destroy my children even before it's built or finished to be built. So I really hope we can fight this. All the kids who live up there are on the same bus 29 to Chile. They discuss this. Everyone in this bus, every child in this bus knows this threatening thing coming. The parents talk to them. The kids are not that happy anymore. That's something they talk about. You have to save them up there. You have to save our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Irene Leach, and I live at 4220 North Fork Road in Elliston. This pipeline is not going through exactly by my house, as far as I can tell. However, my family farm in Buckingham is gravely affected by the other pipeline, and so I've been working on learning about some of this. And through this process, it has become evident to me that we're not being given all of the information up front. And they're going in places, they're going to need a wider amount of land than the 75 feet, because they're going to have place that they can go in and check on the pipeline. And my understanding is that they have to put a cross section in, and that takes considerably more land. They do that about every 7 miles. When I ask questions about, would there be places along the line where you could look in, they said, well, yeah, there would be places every so often where it would be like they'd have a covered place. And not only can you not build on the line, and I know this one is mostly going under an existing line, but I don't think it will all be there. You also can't plant trees there. And further, it's my understanding that even though we normally drive tractors across our fields and so forth, wherever, that they're going to tell us where we can have a crossing, that we have to do these things. And I found these things out by asking questions. They were not things that were volunteered. So I urge you to seek information, to ask questions about what they plan to do. Further, I asked in my home situation whether they would put a broadband line through, because that's something that's needed. If we're going to be stuck with it, why can't we get something from it? Oh no, that's not our business. But it seems to me, if we're going to have this, the county needs to get something for it. In the case of the other line, when we asked about the county getting access to the gas, well, the station for that would cost $5 million. It seems to me that all the costs are coming toward the citizens who lose the value of their property and the use of their property. And the county gives up all of this. I don't see what we get back from these pipelines. And I encourage you, if we're gonna have to deal with this, to find out what we really do get back. And I agree with some of the other speakers. I am highly suspicious that the purpose of this is to send the energy site to another country. And I think it's very strange that the size of the pipeline in Virginia is bigger than it is in West Virginia and North Carolina. There are just a number of things that, and then when you ask questions, they say, well, it's not decided yet, so we can't tell you exactly. And they hide behind that as a way to keep the citizens from knowing exactly what's going to happen. Through my work as a consumer advocate, I've seen this happen at the state, local, and national level. And I urge you to ask lots of questions. Don't just accept what you're told. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Bob Grove, and I live at 1305 Wren Court, right on the power line. So my house would be, if the blast zone corrections are assumed, I guess I wouldn't be here complaining about it if it happens. We mow under that power line for my 3 children to play on. They play out there every day. They put up their bounce house out there and play there. You know, safety is my #1 concern with this. I understand everyone's concerns with fracking. Pandora's out of the box there. We aren't going to stop that, but we can stop the pipeline. And right now, there are 26 homes above my home running up Jefferson Forest Drive that have no means of egress out of that neighborhood. If there was a pipeline explosion, 26 families have no way to get off that mountain. So as somebody was asking before, we would assume, you know, that the board would step up and want to do well testing, that we'd want tax easements. I would also assume for my family and the families up there that the county would also want to step up and provide a means of egress off that mountain for the 26 families that would be stuck there. So when you're looking at what the cost benefit is, figure out also what it's going to cost to build a road to get people down off that mountain safely in the event of a tragedy. So, you know, a lot of people have talked about it. The cost is people. The cost isn't money. And the benefit is people. The benefit isn't to anyone in the state of Virginia. There's been nobody, and if you look at EQT's record anywhere that they've done business, they have never been able to provide anyone with an accounting of where their gas goes, nor will they. They're fighting Pennsylvania right now to become classified as a public utility so they can exercise eminent domain. So, and they will not tell the state of Pennsylvania how much gas is actually going to be provided to the citizens of Pennsylvania, yet they're claiming to be a public utility. So there are a lot of questions to be answered. This is way more than just burying a pipe in the ground. It really is. As a lot of people have said, this is opening up the door. This is just one more Pandora's box that when they put that pipeline in the ground, they're going to come back to you and say, you approved the last one. What's different about the next one? Maybe it'll run through your yard, not mine. So once we say or allow this to go through without doing everything we humanly can to oppose it, just be ready, because the next one will be coming right behind it. Because as long as there's money to be made, they're going to be digging holes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. My name is Ursula Halferty, and I want to thank you, those of you who responded to my letters. You know my position, but I want to state publicly that my husband and I are opposed to the pipeline. We live at 4409 Pearman. We're not directly under the pipeline. We're one house removed. If my neighbors lose their house, we'll be right next to it. And we are definitely in that blast zone that was described. Like so many of our neighbors here and hopefully friends, I've been doing a lot of research about some of the other pipeline explosions that have been going on, and it's disturbing to me. There was one in New Mexico on August 20th that killed 10 campers. It was like a flame shooter. The pipeline was a 30-inch gas pipeline. It was a 86-foot long by 46-foot wide and 20 feet deep. The pipeline was buried underground. 10 people were killed. It was like an inferno. They couldn't get out. There was nothing that could be done. The people were just camping. They were just having a nice time. When you go on further in the article, to read the article, it says that it could have been triggered by something as simple as 2 rocks clicking against each other. Does that mean I'm going to have to worry every time my husband goes out and lights the barbecue grill? I mean, really. There was another one, explosion on February 14th. February 14th in 2014 in Kentucky, Adair County. They put the whole county under a state of emergency while they evacuated. Can we afford to do that here as well? They actually went back 6 months later and followed up with the community because the pipeline company had promised all kinds of things they were going to do for the people and restoration and things like that. And 6 months later when they went back, the citizens were complaining that nothing had been done. Lots of big promises up front, but after 6 months, everybody trickled away, and there was nothing for the citizens. So they were basically left on their own to fend for themselves. And I'd hate to see that here. Again, we were talking about loss of tax ratables for the community and tax revenue for the county, so I don't know how you guys are going to do that. I just see our 2 little pumper trucks that we have here in Blacksburg. I've been told if there's a fire up in our area, they call both fire districts to make fire trucks to make sure that they can get there, whoever's there first. Well, there was a house fire in our neighborhood about 1.5 years ago or 2 years. The whole house burned down. By the time they got there was nothing they could do. So I really don't know how that we can be saved if there's anything that happens up there. And as you know, Sunday was a very dry day. It was a fire hazard day, and as our neighbor said, we're all very conscious about that. We're very proud to be a fire-wise community because we do take it seriously. My husband and I moved here from New Jersey, and we did all kinds of research to find a beautiful place to live. And my sons came down here to look at Virginia Tech, and we went, wow, this is a place we want to live. I even checked to make sure there were no Superfund sites here, and I was really happy to find out. I know that we have the facility in Radford, but I can live with that. But pollution, environmental pollution, that's too tough for me to live with. One thing, when you're talking about a resolution, one of the things that I didn't hear mentioned this evening, but should be considered against fracking, is the water pollution. They're doing all this fracking with these dangerous chemicals, and we know the millions of gallons of polluted water that are a byproduct of the fracking. I would ask that you include in your resolution also that Montgomery County will not be a receiver of this polluted water. I don't know where you're going to. So if you could also include that, that'd be really great. My husband, he likes to play this game. We live in Preston Forest because it's beauty. We have the deer. We have pileated woodpeckers. Our friends come to visit us because they think they're going on vacation because it's so beautiful where we live. My husband likes to play this game. He'll stand out there and he'll go, listen, do you hear that? I'm like, no, I don't hear anything. He said, that's it. There's nothing to hear. It's quiet. It's beautiful. If they put in the pipeline and we have one of those pumping stations here, that's all going to be gone. That's another form of pollution. That's noise pollution. I just don't see this as a win-win. This pipeline is wrong on so many levels, and I urge you to stand with us, and I thank you for saying that you're going to create the resolution and standing with us. But we got to fight. This is only the beginning. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Amanda Carbonello. I live at 1231 Halfpenny Lane. I wasn't planning on speaking. I'm not much of a public speaker. I'm a science person. But the pipeline is not going to directly affect my property, but it's going to be across the street. I have a 20-month-old son. We moved from Maryland to be in a nice, quiet area. We lived in DC. We dealt with traffic, pollution, etc. We love where we live. It's nice and quiet. We're going to lose neighbors. I'm concerned about the drinking water at my house. My son already has eczema and allergy problems. Can I give my son water from my tap anymore? I don't know. Is it going to, you know, they say they have to dig 6 to 8 feet. You can't dig practically 6 inches in my neighborhood without hitting a rock. So, how are they going to bury a pipeline 6 to 8 feet deep? The only way they're going to do that is they're going to have to blast. Well, what's going to happen if you blast? Is it going to destroy the foundation of my house? Is it going to cause sinkholes? Is it going to destroy my well? What happens to, I just spoke to Bob Grove, who lives on the other side. How are those people going to get out of their house when they're building the pipeline? Are they going to have to destroy that road to actually build the pipeline? How are they going to get out of their house for 2 or 3 weeks out of the neighborhood? That's the only, South Jefferson Forest Road is the only egress in and out of this neighborhood. I'm lucky, I live on the south side of that. I can get in and out of my house. What about all the construction equipment that's going to be coming up and down our road with my son, dogs, other people just walking around? Coalbank Hollow Road. It is a crazy turn to get off of 460 from Coalbank Hollow Road just into our neighborhood. What's going to happen with all that? There's going to be accidents. We already have a ton of accidents on 460 as it is. You're going to make it a heck of a lot worse by having all these cars coming in and out. And I just can't, how big is the egress going to be? My neighbors, who are probably here, are probably going to lose their home. I didn't realize until Sunday, we took a little walk with my son. The back of their house is on that pipeline. It's right up against the power lines as it is. They're probably going to lose their home. You know, they lived there, what did you tell me, 10 years? 9 years? They're going to lose their home. It's a beautiful home. And then I'm going to have no neighbors, no trees, crappy water, bad traffic. What is the benefit of this? I don't get it. And one day I'm going to come home and be able to light my water on fire because of all the methane gas. Have you seen that documentary? I mean, people have been able to light their water out of their tap on fire. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Louise Steinecker, 930 South Jefferson Forest Lane, and I'm 2 or 3 houses away from where the power lines go now. I want to approach you from, I guess, emotional standpoint. I am 76 years old, and my husband's 75. We've worked a lifetime digging through other people's wrecks of a house and whatever to get to the point where that we could have a nice house to live in. We could have our grandchildren come down and see us and enjoy the woods. We've been here 15 years. We dearly love our place. We did a lot of the work ourselves. In fact, our builder said we did more work than anybody he's ever seen on their own home. I'm very devastated about what's happening because it's like destroying all we've worked for all our life. I am not a selfish person. My husband and I have been to Haiti. We've been to Honduras several trips, Nevis on medical missions. We've lived on World War II ships going down and helping for 6 months load the ships to take stuff to places like Haiti. We are not selfish. We just worked a lifetime and want a place in the woods where we can enjoy our deer, our fox, our bear, whatever comes around. And now this is going to be destroyed and taken away from us if our wells are ruined. I lost a daughter with leukemia. I know what it's like to have children who are ill from things that we don't even know why. Chemicals that are put in the water. It's not something that I could survive again. Seeing a daughter or grandchild or my neighbor's children destroyed by things put in our water. And children are more easily to take to these chemicals and things than adults are. So it's going to affect our children. I love all these children in Preston Forest and all the whole state of Virginia. Please, please, do everything you can to stop this before it ruins so many lives. When we had the meeting here the last time, I looked around. Most of the people here are gray-headed. They worked a lifetime to get some place they could rest in peace and quiet. And now it's going to be destroyed. And thank you for what you're willing to do already that you said you would do. We just appreciate it so much. But please, please do everything you can. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Carl Zipper, 3910 Horse Farm Road in Blacksburg, or outside of Blacksburg. Live within sight of the power line, although not adjacent to the power line. I think just talk a little bit about what's happening here, and you can see that the people of this county, that the pipeline is coming close to, don't want it, yet they're powerless because this company potentially has the opportunity to take their land, right? To take their land that they bought and paid for with their fruits of their labors, and I believe the way it works is the power line has to pay, or the pipeline company has to pay for the swath of land that's being taken from the people against their will by eminent domain. But we'll have to ask them next week. We'll have to ask them, well, what will they do about the devaluation of the adjacent property, right? The devaluation of the property outside of the 75-foot corridor that they are taking. And my guess is they're going to say that there is no devaluation. We'll just have to ask them and see what they say. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. We're now going to close our public address section of this meeting. You guys want to break?
Your break?
We're going to take a 5-minute break before we resume. Okay, we will resume. I guess probably in order to get people to attend our meetings, we may move public addresses to last. So we could always... No, we'll resume. Addendum. We have one.
We have no addendum this evening.
Well, consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Next item is new business. Subject A, sheriff's request for one-time funding for in-car cameras and body cams.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to make a comment. I think this is a really excellent idea, and I would hope that the other jurisdictions within the county would move towards this as well. Christiansburg, Blacksburg, and Virginia Tech as well.
And I made a note in our work session to have that discussion with them, so thank you.
And I agree with Mr. Gabriel. I think it's something that's definitely needed.
It's another level of protection. We buy insurance and everything, and I just think it adds another level of protection for our employees plus and our citizens. Would the clerk, okay, you want to make a comment?
Oh, no. I said absolutely.
Okay. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Subject B, employee one-time pay supplement.
Move approval.
Second. They're
Any discussion? With
well deserved. Wish we could do more.
And I appreciate everything Carol and the whole staff done to get this worked up. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Carol and Angie in finance spent a lot of time pulling everything together.
Yes.
And it's not much, but it's a token to let our employees know that we really do value them and we appreciate them. And so it means a lot in these tight economical times to be able to touch them with a little something. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Thank you very much.
Subject C, resolution of recognition, the Virginia Fire Service Board, which I believe is meeting in our area.
They are, Mr. Chairman. They normally meet in Richmond, but they're actually coming to this part of Virginia on November 7th and 8th for their business meeting. Know several of these folks, and they are dedicated public servants to Virginia for fire services, and we just thought it would be a nice touch to recognize them for coming to our part of the world and welcome them to Montgomery County.
Motion?
They make a motion.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Tuck?
Aye.
Mr. Gabriel?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Ms. Biggs?
Aye.
Ms. Perkins?
Aye.
Chair Brown?
Aye.
6 ayes.
Next item is the county attorney's report.
No report, Mr. Chair.
County administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one item that I'll mention tonight. We did hear from a number of folks this evening about the Mountain Valley Pipeline Project. They do have a website called the preservethenrv.org. If the board has no objection, we will be glad to provide a link to that website along with the Mountain Valley Pipeline information on our website. We'll make it clear that we're not, and we probably should have said this with the Mountain Valley information too. We're providing information. We're not endorsing, supporting, whatever. We'll take the.
I would ask that we use the same language for the pipeline information and saying this is just for information purposes, and then a link, this is just for information purposes for the two links, so that it's identical language.
Well, we don't, I think it's a good idea to be able to provide information, but we don't want to give the impression anywhere we're endorsing one or the other or both or neither.
That's right.
And I know I contacted the staff and asked for that because I was getting emails saying, what information are you receiving? And so I tried to be open and forthright and showing you all the documentation. That's one of the reasons I think our board and I think all our board was pushing to get that out on the website, is so we were providing information of what we were receiving, not to promote one position or the other, but simply to inform the public.
Can I make a suggestion on top of that? Is that if we have that, maybe we could even create a dedicated page to this, because this is going to be a long process, and so we could continuously update that as we get information. I would suggest, in addition to that we lay out very clearly what our role as a county board of supervisors is in this, meaning that our responsibilities and how we can legally interact with any entity involved in this. And second, that we purchase or make a simple URL that's easy to disseminate to others, like montva.com/MVP or Mountain Valley, Montgomery County, something like that. That it would be easy.
montva.com/pipeline.
That's fine, something like that, just so it's very easy for people we can point people to when they ask for that information.
And Ruth had some really good information that she had obtained from FERC about the citizens' rights.
Yes, and that actually that's a part of the information Mountain Valley Pipeline sent, but I think we need to pull that out and set it separate
aside,
so that you can see it. We'll continue to work on that. One of the things Ruth and I talked about earlier today too is we'll probably put, as I call it, for lack of a better name, a button over on the side of the homepage where we've got budget and other things. We'll probably put one that's info on Mountain Valley Pipeline so you can get to it that way as well. But we will certainly do that. The only other thing, Mr. Chair, is I wanted to mention, got a number of meetings coming up. Our joint meeting with the school board is tomorrow night here at Multipurpose Room 2. Dinner's at 6. The meeting begins at 6:30. As we've discussed earlier, we have a meeting with the Mountain Valley Pipeline officials next Wednesday, November 5th. That's at 7 o'clock at the auditorium at Blacksburg High School. Appreciate the schools working with us to help secure that space. Then our next regular meeting after tonight's board meeting is Wednesday, November 12th, and that's due to several of us attending the VACO conference and the Veterans Day holiday. And that's all I have.
That's pretty good. Maybe we can go to VACO and figure out how we can deal with this Mountain Valley pipeline.
Well, I'm sure it'll be a topic of discussion for sure.
Okay. Supervisor Perkins.
I did attend several different meetings this month, but I wanted to say for the MPO, no discussion of the Elliston situation took place. Also, it would be valuable to the organization to have some questions sent, some comments sent, not only from our administrator, but from board members. If you could figure out a way to get that from us, if you have something to say, or you want Mr. Meadows here to say something that you want to get across to them, please feel free to do that, because this is I don't know why they waited, except that they wanted to have more comments, I believe, about this. The last meeting I had, and I will try to get the information to Mr. Meadows. Actually, it was a discussion of a very large sum of money going to the Roanoke area for certain greenways, roads, transportation. Nothing there came from or affected us. So anyway, I suspect maybe the next meeting, which is November the 20th, I have some concern that I might not be able to attend that meeting. I will be able to let you all know by the next meeting, but if there's anybody who wishes to go in my place, I would appreciate that, but I'll have to let you know at the next meeting.
And Mr. Chair, what I'd like to add to that too is, bless you, is perhaps something we can do is what Ms. Perkins was referring to is the MPO over in Roanoke did a study as to whether the intermodal facility still was a viable idea. And the short and sweet of it is they came back and said it's still a viable idea if there's a lot of public money put into it to build it. Maybe we invite somebody from the MPO over there to come and present that to our board at an upcoming meeting sometime in.
I do have a copy of the entire draft too of the study that was done, and when I asked why the study was concentrated on primarily on Elliston's site, and the answer came back to me that it was already there, so therefore that was a good starting point. But I think they really want to hear from our board too, and that would be a very good thing. The other meeting I went to is PDC. There's a great deal going on with that one, but we always get the minutes of that meeting, and they should be sent to each one of us, so therefore you can look at those. If you have any questions about them, I'll try to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Biggs.
Just a couple things. I just had a question. When we have the meeting on November 5th at 7, is it going to be like in the Blacksburg High School auditorium? Or?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that'll be good because then people can hear really well.
Yeah, we'll be working with them for the audio, and we anticipate a large crowd. It should provide comfortable seating, and it should be a good good environment for that type of meeting.
Okay, so we can all be thinking about our questions and
Yes, ma'am.
listen to the presentation, we might have more, okay? The other thing I wanted to talk about was I went to a meeting last Thursday morning. It was called the Southwest Virginia Substance Abuse Forum, and it was sponsored by the New River Valley Community Services Board. It brought a lot of people together. Dave Nutter was sort of the MC for it, and we heard from Judge Marcus Long about how this impacts the judicial system and, you know, the establishment of a drug court, that type of thing. But one of the things that really, I mean, it covered everything. It covered local government, workforce, employment, community health, how social services, state government, how all of these things are impacted by substance abuse, and how it is a problem, and it's a growing problem, and the impact on our communities is not just a human one, but a financial one. And one thing that sort of got my attention was the county administrator from Giles County. Some of you know him, Chris McClarney. He talked about a program they have over there called the Giles County Day Reporting Diversion Program. And they do a lot with people that have had issues, and they actually put them to work doing different things, and it's an organized program. So, you know, they might be doing something as simple as running copies, or they might be working on, you know, beautifying the environment, or different things. And they put a lot of time into developing this program. They actually have someone that sort of runs it. And I know he made the comment that, you know, in Giles County, they only have 17,000 people. So really, you're only talking about a small percentage of their population that they're dealing with, where in a large county, you have more. Like, they probably deal with 500 people, maybe. But I just wondered, does our social service department, or do we have any kind of program like that? I know Chris has talked before about getting inmates to do more, but what about when someone's told that they have to do a certain degree of community service? Could this community service be made part of a volunteer program to do things that the county needs done? Do we have anything like that?
I'm not familiar with anything. Carol, are you aware of anything from the...
I haven't heard
Not for
anything about it.
adults. We do some community service things for juveniles and some placements, but I don't.
Typically, New River Valley Community Corrections assigns, and then along with VASAP, you have to be a nonprofit. A lot of the tech students end up doing work over at Virginia Tech. Some of them will be in serving lines over at the Virginia Tech as part of their community service, because it is a nonprofit. So there's a lot of different nonprofits that can get signed up. There are supervision that is required, filing the forms, but there's a lot of community service work that gets done. Thousands upon thousands of hours are done.
But not in county related things like animal shelter or...
Animal shelter, yes. I believe that there are people doing community service out at the animal shelter, and it may be through community corrections, but I believe that they're doing it after hours, I want to say, and they are limited about the folks that they will allow to work out there, because they don't want someone who's got a cruelty to animals charge, and then they're going out and doing community service work. So they are limited, but I want to say the recycling center utilizes some, because I've had some clients who've complained about that because of sorting the garbage with big mitts, and smokeless tobacco and yellow jackets are an issue when you're sorting a lot of cans in Southwest Virginia. But so that's some of the work that a lot of the community service does. I think it would be a great opportunity to have some of those folks doing some jobs around the county, whether it was assisting with cutting grass for Parks and Rec. But that's another good idea.
Well, I'd like to really find out more about it from him. I mean, it sounded like the people that went into this didn't come back. They actually had a sort of a plan to, you know, to carry forward. And I just, I wondered if it would be of any value to be used in our county, and I guess the only way to find out would be to find out more about it, because this was just a brief overview, one of many that was presented.
Was this a day reporting center that they have in Giles?
It called it the Giles County Day Reporting Diversion Program. That's the name of it.
And that's a separate program than the other two that I talked about, and that is a program that a lot of my clients end up utilizing, and it's a way to avoid incarceration on nonviolent offenses that are utilized to do community service. They do work, or they can have jobs still. They work around their job schedule, and they do utilize the day reporting center. And that's one of the ways that they've tried to cut their jail costs over in Giles County is utilizing the day reporting center. If you don't have a job, then you're expected to work more community service hours. If you do have a job, again, they'll work around your schedule. So, and it's been a successful program over there.
Well, do you think it's something we should look into, or?
Anything that, was it this year's budget that we went up $600,000 with their jail costs? And if we can benefit and have folks, part of it is punishment, but also it's rehabilitation. If we can get them invested in our community, doing community service work for nonviolent offenders, I think that's something that we should look at.
Well, the way Chris explained it was an investment up front of, I guess they have a person that's sort of in charge of it, but the payoff of the investment was great in the long run. But, they're able to see it really clearly because they have a small county. So I just didn't know, do we think if we just asked them, they could give us some information?
I just made a note. I'll drop Chris a note and ask him to send me what he's got.
Anyway, that was the thing I came away from that I thought was really interesting that maybe we could look at. Thanks.
Mr. Tuck.
Well, a few things. One, just to remind everybody, the talent show is coming up. It's November the 15th at Christiansburg High School. All the local high schools will be competing. The top 2 talents, it's about $50,000 in gifts. Their prizes are being given out to the students and their schools. $20,000 to the school that wins, $2,500 to the winning performer. When you buy a ticket there, all the proceeds go towards the school. And if you go to your local schools, you can buy the tickets from the local high schools. 100% of that money goes back to the schools for them to be able to utilize. And it is a great time. Go to dinner beforehand, go to the talent show. It is as good as anything, better than anything you're going to see on TV because it's live.
Yeah, we went last year. It was good.
It was. That's right.
We
went
did.
there, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah, it was very good.
I'll encourage all the folks to go there.
It's November 15th?
November the 15th. The K92 morning crew will be there emceeing the event as well. And again, it's the 15th at Christiansburg High School Auditorium at 7 o'clock.
Okay. Mr. Gabriel.
Yeah, just a couple of things. First of all, I just wanted to remind everyone and to let anybody watching at home know that unfortunately I won't be able to make the meeting with EQT Nextera next week. I have a conference for work that I'll be traveling to that was planned many months ago, and I won't be able to get out of that. Related to that, I just wanted to suggest that one of the things, because this pipeline is ultimately controlled by FERC, and that's a federal institution in the executive branch, I believe, right, Marty? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly.
Is that perhaps we all reach out directly to our federal officials, to Senators Warner and Kane and Representative Griffith, maybe not right now, but after the resolution is crafted and prepared, to send them a copy of that, and then writing up or explaining a little bit more our concerns about this and asking for their intervention, their consultation, their attention to this matter. The other thing that has been suggested by community members, which I think might be a good idea, is to reach out, to direct staff to reach out to the other impacted counties, Giles, Franklin, Roanoke, and start conversations there, both at the staff level, perhaps also at the supervisory level, and see how citizens there. I mean, we've been reading about news reports and seeing how people are reacting, but talking at the supervisory level might be a good idea, and setting up a meeting in that way might be something to consider going forward. So that's all I have.
May I ask a question, since Matt's not going to be there? Is this meeting going to be recorded at the high school? Because it seems like that would be valuable.
We hadn't talked about it, but I'm sure we can make some arrangements to do that.
Yeah, no, I told him, yeah, it should be easy.
I think it needs to be, if at all possible.
I think so,
And then
too.
we can
Then I
have
can look at-
access for people that couldn't be there and for Matt, too.
Right.
The other thing is when we're putting up that page, could we put just simple links to the email addresses for Morgan Griffith, for Senator Warner or Gillespie, whoever that might be, and Senator King?
Still holding out hope, huh?
Hey, you know, there's always hope, right?
Yeah, but the senator's a senator until January,
That's
so
true.
this has taken place before then. So you need to get Warner, and I've already talked to him person to person, so he knows it's a hot issue here.
What we can do is make note somehow, some way that, again, it's a federal issue. I probably should reach out to your federal representatives, and then we can have a link that takes them to our, because we have that on another page. We can take them to that page.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Mr. King.
I just have a couple of things. Excuse me. I'd like to recognize the Sheriff's Department and all the volunteers that helped go down and rescue the lady that got lost down at Bottom Creek, I believe it was. I think, we understand there was over 60 volunteers in law enforcement.
Yes, sir. We coordinated, like 68 people found her several hours in the search. Big shout out goes to the rescue unit, some of the volunteer rescue. They did a great job.
It's my understanding you can't get there from here either, can you? From where I heard you have to go around.
You actually have to go into several other counties to get back into that area.
Wow.
But that is one thing that I hope people recognize as volunteers in law enforcement, how we work good together. I mean, we really do have good work relationship, and I appreciate everybody involved in it. And yesterday I went out to Old Shirewood and rode that road and talked to a few people. VDOT went out there and they scraped the road. It's a whole lot smoother. And they said that might hold them, if we get something sprayed on there, to calm the dust down till springtime.
And we're working on that.
So it's positive, right?
That's it. And I told them we appreciate how much they're letting us work on this, and we are doing it.
Okay.
I let the ones I spoke to that none of us had forgot about them, and they said, we know you hadn't.
Good deal.
That's all.
Well, I guess it's my turn. I wanted to share at least one thing with the board. At the recent Fire and Rescue Commission meeting, with pipeline on the brain, I asked them, were we, the fire departments in this county, prepared to respond to an event along the pipeline, like an explosion or whatever? What they told me, yes, they was, because all they're going to do is block off the area and get people out of there and let it burn. This is what you see, and usually they post these pictures up of the flames and everything shooting out, but what that fire department is doing is letting it burn out. What gas is in the line, again, gas has to be cut off at a station somewhere, and what's in the line, they just allow it to burn. Also asked, did they need any kind of specialized training or any specialized equipment to respond to disasters like that, or whether the equipment was adequate. And they said the equipment that they had was adequate. Chief Billy Hanks from Christiansburg, he sort of spoke for the group and talked about the training that they had received. And so what my thoughts is if they wasn't trained, if they needed an additional piece of equipment or something along those lines, that was a question I was going to ask to EQT. Was they willing to help fund something like that? But they didn't need that. So one other thing too that just popped up on my mind, that in my conversation with the chair, and we've, I guess for a couple of months, have been looking for a date for an extended work session. And it seemed like everybody is going here and there and everything. And it seemed like I think you started probably about July and August and so forth. So really, time has really gotten away from us. But if you still have that somewhere that you wanted to do sometime before the year is out, you know, look at
Absolutely.
some
And
dates or something.
And I appreciate you mentioning that. There, you know, with all the other issues that we've had at meetings, we've had a tough time finding time to get together, but I really do need quite a few hours, maybe a day. I know we talked about how difficult Saturdays were, but I will try to get an email out. Matter of fact, I had it on my list today and just didn't get to it. Even if it goes into early January, there's just a lot of things that we need to discuss that we just need to discuss. And, you know, we could put it on board agendas, but I know we've got a lot of other major issues to cover. But
And then there were some things that we as a board discussed that we need to sort of talk to Mr. Bettis about, you know, like the and so forth. So it can be sort of like a real interesting meeting, some things that he wanted to share and some concerns that we have that we don't want to share. So
I'll
if you
float that
can
out this week.
float it out, and hopefully the conflicts won't be so bad that we can figure out something that's going to work. Let me see if I can find this gavel because we are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.